welcome. My name is Mike Feinberg, one of the founders of KIP in the U.S. from Houston, Texas. Unlike what I did last night, I took my boots off, so I'm not creating chaos today. I'm glad to have you guys here. I put together, this is a presentation about building a high-performance culture that I do in the States sometimes with Feinberg, who started Yes Prep, which is a terrific charter school in Houston, just like KIP, that started in Houston. And together we do this training quite a bit, so I want to make sure I gave Chris credit. A lot of what you see, not just what came from KIP, but this comes from Yes Prep as well. It's great. This is just at the front. I want to say how cool and inspiring, no pun intended, it is to have to think about how many different children and countries are connected in this room right now, and what we're doing to learn from one another. At KIP, we've done a lot of really good work that we're really proud of over the last couple of decades. At the same time, we are far from perfect, and we have an achievement gap that I showed last night. We're the first ones to admit that we have a long way to go as well, and so we are eager to share what we've learned and are doing well. We're more eager and we're more hungry to also learn what else is going on, and we can continue learning, grow, and get better ourselves. So thank you for being here and coming to the session. So a couple motivating quotes to get us kind of in this mindset of we're talking about high performance culture. Can someone read the first motivational quote for us in a good loud voice?
Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the gray twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. Teddy Roosevelt.
1899. So certainly all of us are involved in this effort. None of us are living in that gray twilight, no not victory nor defeat. So just again, it's awesome to be in the room with you, and awesome to be the fact that you guys are stepping up to make great things happen in your countries. Second one, please.
Children have never been good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. James Baldwin. If
there's one thing I'd like you to take away from this session, is that quote by James Baldwin. This is the epitome of what building a culture is, and what the responsibility is for us, the adults in schools, to build that culture. In fact, this is such an important quote. It's not right that only one voice in this room gets to read it, so let's all read it on three. 1, 2, 3. Children have never been good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. And 12. For that reason, it's time to put on our oxygen masks. So when I think of James Baldwin's quote, the analogy behind it is the oxygen mask from the airplane. Think about what they teach you when you're boarding an airplane. They go through the instructions. You forgot to put on your seatbelt. They show you where the exits are. See, I could have done that instead of teach. I could have a good career. And then they tell you what to do if that cabin loses air pressure and the oxygen mask come down. Right? If you're traveling with a child, your daughter, your son, your younger brother or sister, what do they tell you to do?
First put on your mask and then
put yours on first. Alright? Heaven forbid any of us are in that situation with our own child or younger brother or sister. If you were, alright, and that happened, what would you instinctively want to do? You go right for that. And why is that the wrong thing to do?
They won't help you.
What's that?
They won't help you back. They won't empower you.
Well, they will help you back, but even before that.
You are gonna drown. You're gonna
you're gonna pass out, right? Right. So while you're going to help your kid, you're gonna pass out. Then what good are you? So when we think about it, let's go back to the James Baldwin quote for a minute. It is all about the kids. That I talked about last night from the side. How are the children? All the children are well, right? That's what we want to focus on, and realize at the end of the day, it's not just what we tell the kids, it's what we do. Right? Kids won't do their homework if teachers don't get their lesson plans done. Kids won't play nicely on the playground if teachers go in the workroom and start gossiping about each other. Right? So if we're truly going to put in place a great culture and want the kids to follow that culture, it can't just be words on the wall. Right? It's got to be what we live. Right? And it's all about the kids. Right? However, and this is where we get into the culture for how it's set up in schools. If it's all about the kids, it doesn't start with the kids. It's the paradox. It starts with us. Because if we don't take care of ourselves first, like the oxygen mask, we won't be in a position to take care of the kids. So as much as we're going to focus, it's all about what we're trying to do in mission is focus on the kids and have great school culture that benefits the children. The only way that it happens is if we first turn the magnifying glass onto ourselves, look in the mirror, realize it has to be about us. And we're the ones that create culture, not the children first. So, just to kind of, again, just brainstorm, get our minds going. I want you to think about, when we think about school culture, I want you to think about just instantly what you know when you go walk into a classroom. The worst can be a whole school if you happen to be in a school where there's great culture throughout the school. How do you, we all know it takes about 10 seconds to walk into a classroom to know there's something going on that's really good in this room, or my God, what died in this room, right? Or something in between. What is it? When we walk into a classroom that's got a terrific culture, what about it makes it a high-performing culture? How do you know?
You see the children.
What's that?
You see the children, how they behave.
How the children behave. What else?
Enthusiastic children.
Enthusiastic children.
Participation.
Participate. Everyone participating.
Joy in the classroom.
Joy.
I think the eyes are reflective of that kind of interest and the desire to learn.
Absolutely.
The questions.
The questions they're asking. Huh? What else?
Love and respect.
What's the first one? Love and respect. You see that happening throughout everyone in the room.
Noise in the classroom?
Noise. Say more. What kind of noise?
No, a class that's absolutely silent, that nobody there.
Yes, yeah, not, there's a learning hum going on in that room. Yeah. What else?
Intrinsic motivation.
Intrinsic motivation. Very good. Absolutely.
You can see that the teacher is excited to be in the class.
Very good. Anything else I want to share?
Meaningful learning.
Meaningful learning. All that's great. And so everything you guys just talked about is spot on. So the question is that at the school level, how do you take what goes on inside the four walls of a classroom that a teacher knows how to do well, and how you simply blow it out school-wide? We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just basically, again, we're just expanding the sphere of influence. So, I'm going to start with a video clip. I'm going to show a clip here from, two clips from The Matrix. This clip, we do a lot of training, we use movie clips all the time to do training at KIP. Sometimes I tee up the clip by explaining a lot of why we're watching what we're watching. This time, deliberately, I'm not. I'm saying it's two clips from The Matrix. I want you to watch and I want you to think. At the start of our session about high-performing culture, the start of why am I showing these two clips? I want you to think about just what the connection is. We'll talk about it after we watch the clips.
Accepts what he sees because he is expecting to win. Ironically, this is not far from the truth. Do you believe in fate? No. Why not? Because I don't like the idea that I know exactly what you need. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. There's something wrong with it. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter. Drive. It is this feeling that is broken. matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room, you can see it when you look out your window, or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been all over your lives to remind you of the truth. What truth? That you are a slave. Like everyone else, you were born that you were born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prisoner for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
One more quick clip.
Tank, load the jump program. You have to let it all go, Neil. Fear, doubt, disbelief. Free you are.
Talk about yourself for about 30 seconds. Why did you just watch these two clips? About 10 more seconds. Alrighty. What do we think? What are some ideas? Other than just entertaining us on a Saturday morning with some Matrix clips, why would I show it? As we get ready to start talking about building a strong culture.
May I speak?
Please?
I mean, this is just my own personal observation. In the first clip, I guess when a child enters a class, he kind of delivers himself on a teacher. So there is an intrinsic trust, faith in the teacher's ability to draw out the best from the child. The man says, you have to see it for yourself. You know, nobody can see it for you, but you have to see it for yourself. So the teacher is basically a facilitator, but at the same time must create a climate that is so conducive to teaching and learning that every child has this intense motivation to go for it.
Good. All right, good. More. Yes?
So from the first clip, and maybe you'll follow on the second clip as well, I thought it talks about, so the child is regulated by our expectations which, and rules which they're supposed to follow within the classroom or within the boundaries of school. So it talks about freeing the child and letting the child explore his creativity and work as he wants. So it's essentially about freeing the mind and exploring the potential.
And what's, yeah, we're going to rip off that in 1 minute. And I want to answer that?
On the flip side, I looked at it as a teacher or as an educator, and in the first clip where Morpheus said that you have this inkling, you have this knowing that something's wrong or that something's different, now you're going to have to make a choice of whether or not you want to walk forward.
A great simile. There's some around the world is like it's a great simile.
Say that again?
What's the simile you use? It's a great one. Splinter. It's like a splinter in your mind.
Right.
It's a good line. Keep going.
And so then in the second one it becomes, now that you've made this choice, now the possibility seems huge, but of changing your mindset to get you there.
Right. So it's putting these two together, everything you guys said about the teacher mindset, freeing minds, and realizing something wrong in the world, but it's not that easy, right? I mean, if it was this easy, everyone would be doing it. So it's like when there's a horse, when a beautiful stallion grows up all its life in a corral, right? And you want to free it. So you go to the gate and say, run! What does it do? It's going to stand there. It doesn't know anymore. It can run, right? So what prevents us from freeing our minds? What prevents us from putting in place a culture? Remember, think about the Baldwin quote. Yes, it's about the children, but it starts with the adults, right? There's definitely external, you talk like, it's like a prison for our mind, right? There's external prisons out there. The bureaucracy. In all, I haven't yet found a country yet around the world that's figured out how to truly set schools up for success, right? They tend to set the schools up for failure, and success happens despite the system, right? Not because of the system. So there's plenty of this we can do. Blame government, blame union, blame policies, blame funding, blame this, blame that. There's plenty of reasons why it's hard for us to free our minds. But even when we get past all that and we open up the gate for ourselves and we say run, we still tend to stand there like the stallion in the corral. Because we do something to ourselves. There's a prison in our own minds we do to ourselves. And so fears, doubts, and disbeliefs, we talk about in that quote. We all have them in this room. We're all human, right? The longer you live on this planet, good things happen to you, not so good things happen to you. Those experiences shape who we are, and they shape what we think about things. And this shapes our self-talk, the voice you hear in your head and in your heart. And there's good things go on that make you confident. There's things that go on that provide fears, doubts, and disbeliefs. You're never going to get rid of them. I'm not going to get rid of them. I wake up every day with fear, right? So that's not the question, how do you get rid of fears, doubts, and disbeliefs? But are they going to drive you, or do you drive them? Right? So, yes, it is all about the children again. And we eventually want to help them with get over their fears, doubts, and disbeliefs. But the Baldwin quote says that if we don't first start with ourselves and work on our own fears, doubts, and disbeliefs, we'll never be in a position to help the kids. Which is why, again, which is why this focus, as much as about the children and creating a classroom culture, a school culture, it won't happen if we don't address our own as teachers and as leaders for our faculty as well. So it's about that choice we make for ourselves, and it's about then that choice we make for our colleagues as well. All right, I'm going to read a little Seuss to you guys now to talk a little more into this. Anyone ever read Ambient Zebra by Dr. Seuss? Anyone here? We all know Dr. Seuss? Yes. Cat in the Hat, Sneetches, Horton Hears a Who. There's Green Eggs and Ham. There's some great Seuss books out there. This is one of his more obscure books, but it's my favorite one. I'm going to read part of it to you guys, and you guys can actually help me read it, and then this will help us keep thinking about this idea of fears, doubts, and disbeliefs and building culture. Said Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell Odell, my very young friend was learning to spell. The A is for ape, the B is for bear, the C is for camel, the H is for hare, the M is for mouse, the R is for rat. I know all the 26 letters like that. Z is for zebra, I know them all well. Said Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell O. Good. So now I know everything anyone knows, from beginning to end, from start to close. Because Z is as far as the alphabet goes. Then, he almost fell flat on his face on the floor when I picked up the chalk and drew one letter, a letter he never dreamed of before. And I said, you can stop if you want with the Z. Because most people will stop with the Z, but not me. In the places I go, there are things that I see that I never could spell if I stopped with a Z. I'm telling you this because you're one of my friends. My alphabet starts with your alphabet. Yes. My alphabet starts with a letter called Yuz. It's a letter I use to spell Yuzzamatuz. You'll be forced to find what there is to be found once you go beyond Z and start poking around. The place I took him, I tried hard to tell. Young Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell A few brand new wonderful words he might spell. I led him around, I tried hard to show. There are things beyond Z that most people don't know. I took the past zebra as far as I could. I think perhaps maybe I did him some good. Because finally he said, this is really great stuff. And I guess the alphabet isn't. Now the letters use are something to see. Most people stop at the Z, but not he. The end. Cute story. Alright, so, high performance culture. The what, we're going to get into the what of a culture. A to Z are the basics, and we must master them, but the basics do not contain the necessary tools to produce great results. Ordinary input does not equal extraordinary results. Alright, to lead a high performance culture, first one needs to learn how to blank beyond Z. Then we must put our thoughts into actions by blank beyond Z. There are no, I'm about to ask you to decide how you want to fill in those blanks yourself. There's no one right answer. There's an infinite number of possible answers. Based on that story, I just want you to think of how would you fill in those blanks. You can, and by the way, this is, I believe here, you can also put teach in there as well. To teach or lead a high performance culture, first one needs to learn how to blank beyond Z. Then we must put our thoughts and actions by blank beyond Z. I'm going to give you about a minute to decide what words you want to put in those blanks yourself. First, we need to learn how to blank beyond Z, and put our thoughts and actions by blank beyond Z. For about 15 more seconds. So people will start shouting out what they got. What we got?
Think and then going.
First think beyond Z, then go beyond Z. I like it.
Empathize beyond Z and sense of possibility beyond Z.
Recognize beyond Z, and then have a sense of possibility beyond Z. Good.
Imagine and live.
First imagine beyond Z, then live beyond Z. I like it. What else we got?
Imagine and create.
Imagine beyond Z, then create beyond Z. Good.
Question.
Question beyond Z?
And then identify.
And then more questioning beyond Z. Good. What else we got?
Give beyond Z.
Give, which, first give beyond Z, or which?
The second, give beyond Z. I mean,
Okay. Give
dream,
beyond Z.
dream beyond Z.
Dream beyond Z.
Perceive. Perceive.
Perceive beyond Z.
Discover beyond Z.
Discover beyond Z. These are all good. Alright. By the way, just to show you what Beyond Z looks like, you know, Seuss makes it look really cute. About this book he created a whole new alphabet. So it's a really fun book for kids. But just to show you what this looks like in the real world. This is a great example of Beyond Z in the real world. This is the 1924 Tour de France. We were told to go on this picture. In that front row, one cyclist lighted a cigarette with another cyclist. So this is kind of cool. So get this. Not only 90 years ago did we think in the world that smoking was okay for you, we actually believe smoking helped athletic performance. Right? I didn't get it. I live in Houston, which is the world's largest medical center. So I took this picture to the medical center and said, can you please explain to me what in God's name is going on in this picture? Sure enough, 90 years ago, we believed across the world, everyone, science at the time thought that smoking thinned out the blood. It would make the blood travel around the body faster, delivering oxygen to the muscle at a faster rate. So 90 years ago, when you were trained for the most difficult athletic contest of mankind, part of that training regimen would bring along a few extra packs of Camels. Right? Talk about a complete 180-degree mindset of thinking and belief. This is, I'm going on a little bit of a side note here, but just think about that. If you can have that same type of mindset in smoking, why can't it happen in public education? If we can snap a picture of how we were delivering education in any of your countries, and we put that up here on the screen 80 years from now, I bet they would be laughing looking at that picture. Right? But here's the thing. Someone back then, someone in that picture had to be the first one to go beyond Z. Right? Someone had to say, guys, I'm not so sure it's a hot idea. Right? Someone would be the first. But someone would be the second. So if only one person saying it, that's a crazy dude. Right? Like the bells from last night. Right? So someone had to validate him and say, you know what? You're right. I'm coughing a lot. You know, let's run a few tests or something. Right? Someone would be the first, would be the second. Right? And from there, more and more happen until just a few people going beyond Z, it creates a worldwide change of mindset. Right? If that can happen in cycling, in smoking, why can't it happen in education? So that's what it looks like. So moving on, so where is your Z? Please think about what you know about yourself as a leader or a teacher, and pick up the mirror before the magnifying glass. Who's familiar with that expression? Mirror, magnifying glass? So Dave Levin, who my co-founder of KIP, when he does leadership training for all the KIP leaders, his first lesson he puts in front of them a mirror and a magnifying glass. And he says, as teachers, these were important tools. As leaders, these are important tools. Put both of them in your toolkit. One, however, is more important than the other. Which one is more important between a mirror and a magnifying glass? Mirror. Which one do human beings reach for first? Magnifying glass. It's a lot easier to do this than it is to do this. Right? So I'm asking you to push it. Think about, pick up the mirror before the magnifying glass. Where do you predict you will need to be pushed? As well as push yourself to think and live beyond your preconceived fears, doubts, and disbeliefs. You all gave me some great words. You're going to live beyond Z, dream beyond Z, perceive beyond Z, you know, have a sense of possibility beyond Z. All that's great. It's great words on paper. Then you go back to your classroom, go back to your schools, and then those words stay on paper. They don't turn to action. And it's because of our fears, doubts, and disbeliefs inside of us. So I want you to take a couple minutes and do self-reflection on what are your fears, doubts, and disbeliefs that prevent you from going beyond Z as you wrote on that paper. Okay? Another minute. Give about 15 more seconds. Rapid return thought, please. All right, so in a couple minutes, you're about to make a new best friend because you're going to share with someone next to you. You don't have to. You're not going to share your deepest, darkest secrets. You know, whatever you're comfortable sharing, you're going to share. We just kind of like model this. I'm going to share with all of you, and then you're going to pair up and share together. Because the answer to this question, this is the history, and just this is why KIP came about. Is the answer to this question. So. You know, Dave Webb and I were two Teach for America teachers back in 1992 in Houston, Texas. I was a 5th grade bilingual teacher. Why bilingual? I had a pulse. And that's why they made me a Spanish teacher. And like all first-year teachers, we went through it was a really rough start. We latched on with these mentor teachers that took us under the wing and taught us how to teach. And by the first year, we weren't great teachers, but we were competent teachers. And our kids loved learning. It's 5th grade. You know, they're all 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. They love talking about career they want to have, what college they wanted to go to. And we naively thought we'd done it. On the K-12 assembly line, we gave the kids a great 5th grade year. Off they go on to bigger and better in 6th grade, which was middle school. We went to the bigger building. And that very naive bubble burst about the 2nd week into our 2nd year of teaching. When our former kids, who were now in the middle school, they would call us up at night. And those phone calls would go like this. Hey, Mr. Feinberg, Mr. Levin, can you give me homework? What? How come I have to give you homework? Well, we don't get any homework. What? How come I don't get any homework? Well, the teacher won't let us take the books home. What? How come they let us take the books home? They say we'll ruin the books. And that went on for about a few months, so about by Christmas time, my well-behaved, intelligent, enthusiastic former students were now skipping just as many classes, joining just as many gangs, doing just as many drugs, becoming just as many parents as all the other kids in that middle school and high school feeder pattern. Which of those feeder patterns was nothing new. But for Dave and myself, the problem had lots of face, lots of names, which made it unacceptable. And it was unacceptable. But because of our fears, doubts, and disbeliefs, we did not do this. We did this. Right? It was easy to go into the teacher's workroom and start blaming everyone in the summer for why it was happening. Again, it was easy to blame the kids themselves, blame their parents, blame the teachers, blame the principal, blame the community, blame society, blame everyone. We were excellent finger pointers. Side note, little did we know, in those other teacher workrooms at the high school, they were pointing the finger back at us. How can we get kids every year who can't read, can't write, can't do math, can't behave walking down a hallway every 2 minutes? And so we just had this epiphany one night late '93 that we were just, all this finger pointing was just adding to the problem, not contributing to any solution. And we were part of it. And we had to face our fears, doubts, and disbeliefs and stop doing this and look in the mirror and do this. And realize the problem is right here. There's something very scary about it. It's hard to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I suck. I blew it. That's hard. But it's also at the same time it was liberating. Because you can't fix this, but you can fix this. The night we did that, that Dave and I said, the problem is right here. That was the night we sat on our computer, this is late '93, about 20 years ago. Sat on our computer all night long, poured out our feelings of failure and frustration onto the computer screen, put on YouTube, Octung Baby, repeat play, and by about 5 o'clock in the morning, we had the Knowledge is Power program, KIP, on the computer screen. And the premise of KIP back then, in late '93 and today, is there are no shortcuts. We're trying to provide children with all these academic, intellectual character skills, not just have a really good grade with us and a good year, but to eventually go to and through the universities. Quit looking for the magic bullet. Let's roll process, get after it. And where we think that we're not good enough, that's okay today. But what are we going to do to get better, be better teachers, to give them what they need so they can climb the mountain to and through college. So the night we were able to confront our fears, doubts, and disbeliefs was the night we came with KIP. And 20 years later, that idea turned into a program, turned into a school, and now there's 125 schools in 20 states and DC in the United States, educating 41,000 kids, and a lot of our kids are climbing the mountain to and through college, which we're really happy about. But it started with us realizing that we were the problem. So that's me sharing our fears, doubts, and disbeliefs. And by the way, they haven't disappeared. We were, we had those fears up to beliefs as teachers. When we started KIPP, we weren't sure it was going to work. We hoped it was going to work. We weren't sure, right? Then when we tried to turn to a school, same thing. We thought it was going to work, but we weren't sure. So every step along the way, there's been fear, right? We're now doing global fellowships. We're training educators from other countries to learn from us to start their own KIPP-inspired school in their countries too, right? That's the next step. There's fear involved in that. Fear is never going away, right? But we're able to deal with it to still be able to go and live and dream and have a sense of possibility beyond Z. So that's me sharing. Please, with one or two other people at your tables or just right around you, please take a few minutes and just share your own reflections that you're comfortable sharing. All right, we'll get back together. Thanks.
That's the education.
this conversation right here. That could go on for a few more hours. It was a really deep question to ask. But I hope this is, again, later in this conference when you're flying back home, something to keep thinking about. I mean, the final question to be thinking about it as you reflect on, on what we just did here. The biggest barrier to creating a high-performing culture in your classroom and your school. Is it bureaucracy? Is it the environment? Is it you? There's a right answer, by the way. Okay. So that's set up. So now, how do we go about it? Now that we know that it is within our sphere of influence to create these cultures, and we need to follow that James Baldwin quote. How do we go about doing it? Well, there's the brain of the culture, and there's the heart of the culture. Start with the brain of the culture. All right, this is going to be a quick kind of mini lecture, but we're going to get through this kind of fast. So the brain of the culture has three components. There's a vision, there's a mission, and there's a strategy. Right? When you go into like think about it at the classroom level, or at the school level, or the organization level, you can have all three of these things in place to create a high-performing culture. Right? And a high-performing organization of any kind. Just to put these into longer version, we use Kip Houston up here as the example. Start with a vision. You gotta have this overarching vision of where you want everything to go. The vision is not what you're going to accomplish today, which we're going to get to that in a minute. The vision is, if we're wildly successful in everything we do, how is the world going to be a different place because of what we've done? Right? Really pushing it. Can someone give me the Kip Houston vision?
To have enough great individual student achievement and overall school results in both quality and quantity to change societal beliefs on what is possible in every single school, in every single community, to help our children build a better tomorrow for themselves and generations to come.
So that's bigger than anything we're going to do in our school. It's bigger than anything we might even achieve in our lifetimes. But it's what we hope to eventually will come because of our work. Right? That's like the why you get out of bed, inspiring kumbaya behind everything we're trying to do. Alright? So that's a good start. But of course, some organizations have the vision and say, alright, let's go get them. And they fail. And they fail because when they say go get them, people take that vision and they run in 360 degrees. They run in every possible direction because there's no focus. The focus is that mission. You got to have a mission. It's your laser focus. It's what you make sure you do every second of every single day. And also how you keep track of what you should do versus what you should not do. Right? So can someone read the Kip Houston mission as an example?
Develop and underserved students the academic skills, intellectual habits and qualities of character necessary to succeed at all levels of pre-K to 12 education, college and the competitive world beyond. Boom.
That's what we focus on every single day. And that's the question we ask. What we're about to do, is it going to help our children get to and through college? Let's do it. If it's not going to help our children get to and through college, why are we wasting one more second on it? Right? That's what keeps everyone focused in the right direction. Some organizations have that inspiring vision, they have a laser-focused mission, they say let's go get them, and they fail. Right? And they fail because they still don't, they never got it. So now how are we going about pulling this off? That's where you got to have your strategy. Right? What I have up here, this is Kip Houston is now, we're our own school district with almost 10,000 kids. This is kind of a 50,000 foot strategy. In your classroom, the strategy is how you're going to spend your time, what schedule you're going to have. What resources are you use to teach different subjects? Are you going to have, how you differentiate the instruction? Do you have whole group instruction? How are you going to tutor certain kids? All those are strategic decisions you make at the classroom level or the school level. So just read the overall Kip Houston strategy for me.
Recruit, select, and retain high-performing individuals who share our core beliefs and values. Execute well Kip's 5 pillars: more time, choice, and commitment, power to lead, high expectations, and focus on great results. Work hard, be nice, take no shortcuts, and operate as a functional team and family.
Right. The word underlined there, by the way, is execute. The reason why that is, they used to say implement the 5 pillars. We learned from Nancy Yuski, who's an organizational culture and behavior professor at the hospital visit at Berkeley, who trains a lot of our school leaders, that I changed because of one thing she taught us. They've done lots of business schools around the world keep doing studies on why do organizations fail. And the number one reason why organizations fail, when the autopsies are done, we're talking about for-profits, NGOs, doesn't matter. The number one reason why organizations fail is not because they ran out of money. It is not because they hired the wrong people. It's not because they had a flawed strategy. The number one reason organizations fail is when they, at the end of the day, they match up what the organization actually did with what they said they were doing on paper. It didn't match up. They simply didn't execute on what they said they were going to do. Right? So, given how important that is, that's why we changed our word to execute and we've underlined it. So, again, whatever strategic plan you have, just remember you got to actually execute on with fidelity. So, there are organizations that have a inspiring kumbaya vision. They have a laser-focused mission. They have a very smart strategy. They say hut, hut, hike, and they go, and they fail. And they fail because all this is the brains behind the culture. But you don't just have a brain to make your body work. You need the heart. All right? So the heart are the values that we're going to have as well. Now, values certainly are words that you can talk about. The values of Kip Hewson, for example, I can tell you are persist, excel, enjoy, commit, honor. Those are nice concepts, right? Those are really nice words. Lots of organizations have those. Where I'm from in Houston, here's the best example I have. Enron. Enron, their values were integrity, communication, respect, excellence. Right? They were chiseled into their beautiful granite wall of their beautiful lobby of that big building in downtown Houston where I live. Right? So the problem was those words, those beautiful words in the beautiful granite were words on walls. But they weren't lived. Right? Values or organizational values should be seen as behaviors and skills that we value in colleagues. Right? You take the brains of your vision, mission, strategy, and you now have to unpack. So what does this mean in terms of how we treat each other? How do we operate as a team? Not just on the good days, but especially on the bad days when we're really frustrated with each other. What are we going to hold each other accountable to how to act with one another? Those are the values. So when we talk about living the values in our classrooms and our schools, here's a starter list. And I want you to give me some more. But we think about like how values should permeate the entire classroom, the entire school. One at a time, just please shout out the places we live the values in our classrooms and schools. What was the first one? Hiring. Keep going.
360 reviews with ratings on the values.
That's right.
Observations.
Yep.
Compensation.
Yep. Exiting means how we have people leave. The values should be in place not when people come in, but when they leave. Even if they're getting fired, people should get fired according to the values. What else?
Making the values the guide to how to succeed in this organization.
All right, so those are just some starter ones. What else? Where else in our classrooms and our schools should we see the values being lived? How else?
You can reference to it when you see it. So when the values are being exemplified, like kids
Acknowledge,
really kind of go, that's what we need, because it becomes concrete.
Acknowledge them, reward them, talk about them. Absolutely. What else?
Being proper role models.
Role modeling them themselves. That sounds like a quote from the beginning of the session. Children have never been good and listen to their elders, but they never fail to imitate them. Absolutely right. What else?
Engaging with other stakeholders, community, parents.
How we communicate with all the stakeholders. Absolutely.
I think leaving the values after school time also, because if we get used to the values, then it's easier to implement them every day, the whole day.
That's right. Values are not just in the classroom. They should be in the lunchroom. They should be in the restroom. They should be on the playground. Somehow they should be on the school bus. I haven't figured out how to make them on the school bus yet. That's nuts. Every day I get calls, but we're working on it. Okay. What else?
Challenging it when you see something that's contrary to the values.
And who challenges? If it's a truly great culture, who challenges?
Kids, adults, visitors.
Everyone. All right. If you got your values really operating well, you know it when the first grader is calling out the head or principal and not following the values. Something happens. And the principal or head responds by saying, you know what? You're right. I have consequences because I screwed up and I'm sorry. Yep.
Revisiting and reworking them as a whole organization.
Yeah, constantly. So reflecting on them, do we have are these the right ones? Are we missing any? Or do we have holes? Do we have everyone feel like they are contributing to building those and they're committing to that? Anything else? Okay, so this is a good list you guys are getting us. Okay. So this is this very complicated document you don't need to read, but the way we talk about our values is we've created what we call the Kip Houston Freedom Tree. We like the idea of a tree as the analogy of how we talk about our values. Our values, as I described to you, honor, commit, persist, excel, enjoy. They're like the branches of a tree. Now, and then the leaves, they bear fruit. That's an apple tree, of course, apple education. These are the schools of Kip Houston. And then around here are the operating norms. Excel is defined according to these behaviors. Persist is defined by these behaviors. But notice that the start are not the values. The values are the branches. When we unpack it, we realize values come from somewhere. No one's born with values. Where do they come from? They come from our core beliefs. Core beliefs come from somewhere too. None of us are born with beliefs, right? But as you grow up from your parents, your family, your church, your teachers, your neighbors, your community, you develop core beliefs, right? What you believe in translates into what you value. What we value translates into how we behave and how we treat other people, right? So the starting point for how you create the culture, what we had to learn to do used to start with values until we realized that that's not the right starting point. Starting point is to get the people on the same page with the beliefs. And we basically unpacked, here's how we did it by asking these questions, which I'm going to ask you guys to work on in a minute. Why do I teach? What do I want to accomplish by teaching? Why do I teach the way I teach? What does it feel like to be taught by me? Or as leaders, we ask these same questions, substituting the word lead instead of teach. And these questions will be on the screen in a minute for you guys to write down. Those questions, focusing on these values, help us unpack them to get to our beliefs, which are, here they are. Freedom through education for all. We are a team and a family. We do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Promises to children are sacred. All children will learn. Impossible is nothing. Freedom is not free. We relentlessly pursue success. We're defined by what we do, not who we are. We love what we do and those with whom we work. We celebrate what we achieve with dignity and humility. Those are the core beliefs that translate into the values we hold, which translate into the operating norms, which collectively is how we define our culture. Right? Our culture is defined not by the words in granite, not by the beliefs. The culture is defined by the actions between the kids, between the teachers and kids. The actions define really what the values are. Right? So, and just to give you like some examples of how it plays out at the school level, one of our core beliefs is we're a team and a family. That lines up with the book The Sneetches, which we read to kids the very first day when we hypnotize them when they come to us. Right? If you remember, that's Dr. Seuss' book. Some of the Sneetches have stars upon theirs, some of them don't. Right? And so they learn over the time that it doesn't matter. So that's how we talk about, we don't just the fact that we respect differences, we celebrate differences. We build a strong team and family. The very second day with Kipsters, we read the Polar Express like I did last night. We talk about what it means to hear the bells. And hearing the bells becomes a metaphor for you believe. You get it. You understand why you're working so hard, why you're being so nice. So when you're walking home late in the afternoon or on weekends or in the summer with your backpack because you're still in school, and your brothers, sisters, neighbors, friends are outside playing, they make fun of you, don't worry, those kids don't hear the bells. You hear the bells, you know why you're doing it, you keep doing it. At the end of the first year, we gave our kids a giving tree. We talked there about how we're climbing the mountain to and through college, and our kids know when you get to the top of the mountain, enjoy the view, but then reach back down, how about us climb? I love the fact that now probably about 20, 25 of my former Kipsters are now Teach for America Corps members, by the way, Teach for America alumni, like the next generation. The Oompa Loompas are starting to take over the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Right? It's awesome, love it. Right, and we talk about that, and then we talk about, here's a Who, another Seuss book. remember that one? Horton is this little speck of dust in his trunk. All the little who's live on the speck of dust. He's the only one in the jungle who can hear them because of his big ears. The other animals don't believe him. They think no one lives on the speck of dust, so they're going to boil the speck of dust. And so Horton says, all the little who's, this is your town's greatest need. You all have to shout so your voices can be heard. And they're shouting when no one can hear them. Right? And so they're about to be boiled. And so the mayor of Whoville runs through the speck of dust, and he finds JoJo playing with a yo-yo, not shouting. And he gets the boy to shout, and the extra yop pushed over the top, as only Suits can write. Right? And so the lesson of that book is every voice counts. Right? Every voice counts. And for us, it's actually like a 7th grade lesson, because when the kids are 12, 13, 14, that's where they lose their minds, and you don't recognize them anymore. Right? But they realize that they have to keep climbing that mountain. They have to keep working hard, being nice, not just for themselves, but for the younger kids too, so they're not the role models for. And that's how we keep that culture in place. Those are some examples of how we connect this to the children. So, I want to take about 5 minutes to give you a little bit more self-reflection time to start working on this. This will be a good time for the airplane home. And then I want to save time at the end for Q&A, and whatever you guys want to cover, we'll cover whatever you want to do. So, the same way that we figure out how to unpack values to get to core beliefs, which is where all culture flows from, why don't you try to connect to your core beliefs? And whether you are a teacher or a leader, substitute that verb in there for these 4 questions. Think, why do I teach? Why do I lead? What do I want to accomplish by teaching, leading? Why do I teach or lead the way I teach or lead? What does it feel like to be taught or led by me? I want you to think about these. All right? And then from there, that's going to help you connect to what kind of values and what kind of culture you want to create in your classroom, schools, and teams. If you haven't done so, please just make sure you write down all 4 questions, because this might be something you'll probably want to pick back up after we're all done here. We have a couple more minutes. So I hope you have some time to reflect some more on these 4 questions, because again, what you're writing down is going to turn into help you be able to articulate, teach, and maintain the culture you want to have in your classroom and schools. Last quote to share with you, this is a really profound one I learned from my mentor teacher, Harry Ball, that has to apply for culture as well. If you plant corn, corn will grow. Let you noodle on that one for a little bit. So, with that said, what questions can I answer for you about culture, about organizational stuff, about KIPP specifically? Be more than happy to open up for any questions right now, in the time we have remaining. Yes?
How do you balance optimism with realism? I put this down as one of my blocking things.
Yeah.
And if repeated experience suggests that something is impossible, do you push yourself harder, or do you ever accept that?
Are you familiar with the book Good to Great by Jim Collins?
Yeah.
There's a great book, suggest you guys read Good to Great. Jim, he's a business professor, but what he writes relates to schoolwork as well. He basically compares companies that at one point in time are the same size, just as successful, and something happens at some point, and one company doesn't get bad but stays good, and the other company shoots off and makes it leap all the way to great. The opening line of the book is a fantastic line. It reads, "Good is the enemy of great." And he unpacks it. One of the lessons he talks about there is called the Stockdale Paradox, which is named after Admiral James Stockdale, who was the longest held officer held captive in the Vietnam War for America in the 60s and 70s. He spent, I think it's 6 or 7 years in the Hanoi Hills. And, he would be interviewed and asked, how did you possibly survive so long when so many people, they didn't make it that long, physically, emotionally, they died, they cracked, they couldn't make it. The way he would answer is that, the first people who couldn't last there were the optimists. Right? The people said, we'll be out by July. July rolls around, they're still captive. Okay, we'll be out by November. And eventually, your point that they kept putting these goals out there, and they kept missing them, and at some point, everything would believe it. And of course, the opposite of that wasn't good either. People was like, we're all going to die. They weren't very successful either, right? Stockdale and others had this paradox. They had 2 thoughts going through their head at the exact same time, right? The first thought was, we're in this prisoner of war camp. It's horrible. We're being tortured. We're almost starving to death. This really sucks, and it's not going to end anytime soon. One thought. And somehow, some way, we're going to get home, right? It's like what they did was, at the same time, they confronted the brutal facts and kept faith. And that's like a paradox that leaders have to learn how to do themselves, and then teach their teams how to do. Is to turn that either or into an and. Have the same things at once. The achievement gap is great. Most of our kids today are not going to and through college, right? We don't yet have the resources and know-how to fully pull this off. Life sucks. But we're going to figure this out, right? It's confronting the brutal facts to keep it real and keep faith that there always is a solution. That your sphere of that, again, we learned at the beginning, the thing holding us back from having a bigger and bigger and bigger sphere of influence is mainly ourselves. Yep.
How can you build new culture in an organization, or inculcate a new culture within people you've been with?
I'm sorry, say it one more time?
How do you build a new culture or inculcate new culture in the organization?
Yeah. For us, we found the critical path is leadership. If you boil it down to I challenge any school in the world why it's working well, it boils down to its simplest ingredients. It's basically got 2 things going on. It's got great teaching and more of it. More. Right? That's basically it. Now, if those are the basic ingredients, great teaching and more of it, then the question is, how do you get those ingredients? The critical path is leadership. Right? Leadership is what brings great teachers in. Leadership is what gets great teachers to stay. Leadership is what gets has not so hot teachers or bad teachers, okay teachers, makes them great. Leadership is what gets bad teachers who don't want to get better to leave one way or the other, right? That's what leadership is, what kind of motivates everyone to work extra hard, the parents, the students, the teachers, right? And so for us, that's the starting point. And so when we started replicating KIPP in 2000, we realized that if great teaching and more of that great teaching were the ingredients, you know, again, as much as we want to focus on the kids, as much as we want to focus on instruction, to make that happen, we have to focus on leadership. We have to find great teachers and train them for a whole year on how to plan, open, and run their own KIPP-like school. The most important way to teach them was how to lead and manage adults, and how to build a culture. Take what they already knew how to do in their classroom with their kids, and learn how to do it with adults. Because if only the adults were as easy as the children. Right? And then, but just like we all have to learn how to teach in classrooms with our kids, we have to learn how to lead and manage adults. Those are skills that you have to learn. And so that's what we would teach great teachers how to do. And from there, then they opened up their own schools. And what they learned how to do most of all was put in place the culture from the beginning. Right? Day one with their family, they learned if day one you were reviewing schedules and talking about who's covering lunch duty and where the math was going to come from, you've already blown it. That's not the starting point. Those are very important to cover, but the starting point is, what do we believe? What are our values? What are we going to tolerate? What are we not going to tolerate? How are we going to? How are we going to define our team, our school? That's the starting point, and you got to build off of that.
Can I just ask you on that point? Is it because back home in Australia sometimes it's been easier for schools to be the culture just cannot be turned around, so they've totally closed down the school and started from scratch? In your experience, is it easier to, like I'm thinking about the KIPP schools, really you were starting with a fresh or a clean sheet, so to speak.
It's they're different challenges. They're both challenges in different ways. You know, turning around a failed culture is extremely difficult. It's possible to do. Business schools have all kinds of case studies of organizations that have done it. It's not easy. Starting a brand new school from scratch, starting something out of nothing, is of itself a great challenge too. But to your point, they're different. I mean, they overlap in a lot of ways, but they're not the exact same thing. But at the end of the day, to do either one, both come still back to leadership. You cannot start something out of nothing, have it be good. You cannot turn around a failed culture without leadership. And that's a starting point. Depending on from a turnaround perspective, depending on where the school is starting from, maybe the right people are there and all they need is different leadership and they're ready to go. Maybe it is the wrong people and that they don't, at the end of the day, they don't have basic beliefs. Like I said last night, if they don't believe all children can learn, then they shouldn't stay. Right? And leadership has to be the ones to find some way to get them to leave, either by terminating them or, you know, putting them out to sea in Australia. One way or the other. Find a way or make it. Yes.
Just wondering, the question I have is partly answered by one of the earlier answers, but you said that value system basically comes from our beliefs, and our beliefs are something which we would have developed or we would have got them from the environment, our experiences or environment. Now, when you have different teachers or different members in your school or in your organization who are coming in with different belief systems, how do you provide that environment when they're in your school to actually drive them towards the common value systems that we have?
Again, that's for us, that's the leaders doing that with the faculty. And I said that's part of what we believe professional development should be. It shouldn't just be, yes, there's part of professional development has to be how do we actually get better at the skill of teaching and learning. But that's, I'm going to give you another just U.S. business example. About 15 years ago, United Airlines tried to compete with Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines was this new startup airline that was no frills. You don't get fancy drinks and fancy seats and all that. You just kind of, it's more like a bus that's flying in the air, right? and they could quickly, it lands in 20 minutes, they could unload the passengers, unload the bags, put on more bags, and take off again. Right? And that's what Southwest, and that was kind of, and so United Airlines created Shuttle by United to kind of compete and do what Southwest Airlines did. And they put in place, and it failed. They couldn't turn a plane around in 20 minutes. Just couldn't. They tried. They couldn't. They were confused because they copied the Southwest Airlines playbook. Like, did we miss a step? Did we not do something? What they did the technical. They did all the right things. What they didn't have the underlying culture as a foundation to make that work. Right? That they just didn't have that. United actually has a horrible culture. They're now the main airline for Houston, which I regret too. You know, so you can't take a bad culture, you can't take like a really smart strategy, put it on top of a bad culture and make it work. Right? It's putting lipstick on a pig. Right? It doesn't work. All right? And so you know, that's why that thing fails. So as much as we want to get into how you teach math and how you teach reading and how we're going to make sure the kids who are falling behind catch up, which is really important to do, that all those questions have to come on the foundation of what is our culture. As defined by, therefore, what are the operating norms of our school? As defined by what are the values? As defined by what are our core beliefs? Right? Which are defined by how does a leader hire and select for people who have the shared beliefs. You have these same root systems, everyone's growing up on the same tree. You don't have to be, not two branches are the same. That's fine, but it comes from the same tree. That's what it's got to start with the same beliefs. You can't take someone who does not believe children can learn, poor children can learn, and put them in an environment where they're going to be successful as a teacher. They got to at least start with the same beliefs. They can be a bad teacher and all that. They might even be bad to the values, but they at least have to start with those beliefs, or you're never going to get them to alive. Yes.
How do you look for those beliefs in interviewing or when you are thinking of bringing in new stuff, or how do you look for them?
You know, and that's by, I mean, that's kind of by asking these type of questions, right? And matching, and not just asking questions there, but matching up and see, well, how does this translate into how they live their lives today? You know, you say you believe that all children can and will learn. Okay, that's great. So what have you done? How have you gone about? Give me concrete examples of how you've gone about that. How you challenge yourself on that in your classroom. What are examples where you were in an environment where that wasn't happening and you had to really step out of your comfort zone to make it happen? Give me an example. You know, and then we also we'll observe them. You know, whether if they're a leader or a school, whoever, we'll go watch them in their environment and see are they walking the talk.
When you hire teachers at Gibbs School, what attributes do you give a high preference to? So, is it their subject knowledge? Is it what are the things that you look out for?
It starts. The first thing is it starts with knowledge and passion of their subject matter. Are they very knowledgeable where they don't have to rely on the teacher's addition to teach, right? And do they love what they're teaching? Because if someone loves science, more than likely the kids will start to love science, right? Secondly, we look for teachers who can connect that knowledge and passion from their brain heart to the brain heart of a 5, 10, or 15-year-old, which for some people is a gift from God. For most of us mortals, those are skills that have to be acquired over time, right? Third, we look for teachers who have an attitude of whatever it takes, that they're willing to put forth the work hard, be nice effort to make it happen. And lastly, all this great, we're looking for examples of teachers who will then share our beliefs as well. This is where, if it's just those first three and not that last one as well, it's like it's a sports analogy. Whatever your favorite sport is, in most sports there's the example of the team that's loaded with talent and still doesn't win the championship because they just, in the locker room they're a mess because they don't know how to play as a team. They have the best individual players and athletes, but they don't know how to gel as a team. Usually the team that wins the championship doesn't necessarily have the best talent, but they know how to play as a team really well. So it's the exact same example of that. They've got that shared, they've got a great culture, and it starts with having shared beliefs. So it's those first three, but definitely that last one as well has got to be there to have a foundation. I'm around the rest of today and tomorrow. If you have any more questions about culture, about KIP, about our global fellowship training, feel free to ask. Guys, it was great getting to spend a lot of time with you. Have fun the rest of the day. Thanks.